Everyone in this village knows the rule: never follow the horse. Our home is situated next to a hill. During the dry season, we engage in rice farming, while the monsoon season brings heavy flooding. My family consists of my father, uncle, 5 brothers, and 2 sisters. The incident involved my father's younger brother, Abdur Rahman, whom I addressed as Nana. Our home and my grandmother's ancestral home were located in the same village. At that time, we could not find necessary household supplies in the local market. Consequently, my uncle, Abdur Rahman, would travel to the market in Inayatpur, Sirajganj district, which required crossing the Yamuna River from our village. In the 1970s, when my father was a young boy, he traveled to his grandfather's home. Although my grandfather suggested waiting until the following morning to depart, my grandmother insisted on leaving immediately. Upon arriving at his uncle's house, my father spent the day playing with his relatives. To hear the story of my uncle Abdur Rahman and the ghost, listen closely. My Nana once sent me to the market in Inayatpur to buy fish. He told me the fish there were excellent, so I went early in the morning. This is the true story of what happened that day. I returned from the land to the boat. At the market, I bought a hat. I traveled by boat, and the weather was beautiful with a clear sky. There were many people on board, and we talked until we arrived at the pier. By the time we reached the pier at Maghrib, everyone disembarked and headed toward their destinations. Everyone was home in the area, but after most had left, only one person remained with me. He lived nearby and said, "Brother, keep in mind that I will go home in the morning." We talked about traveling from my grandfather's house across the Daleshwari River. Although there was little water in the river, there were no boats available. I told him, "Brother, I will go. There will be no problem." The man insisted I stay. I sat by the river at night, whispering, "Bella Nana, kind danger, can I trust her?" Pata said no. I left with him, saying goodbye as he went. That decision was my greatest mistake. Late one dark night, I was walking alone near the river, where the wind rustled through the rice fields. At 10 p.m., I heard a sound and began walking quickly. After a short distance, I saw a large white horse eating the rice. Thought about how much trouble this caused the farmers, as the horse had been left unattended to damage the crops. Although I felt a brief moment of fear, I decided to continue. A little further on, I saw 2 more horses eating the rice. I felt very angry, but being alone at night, I did not know what I could do. In the evening, I went to check on the rice fields. As I walked through the night, I wondered how much the horses had eaten. I approached to inspect the damage, but despite the horses grazing nearby, the rice remained unharmed. This seemed unusual, leading me to fear that something bad might happen. I caught the horses and chased them away, making enough noise to ensure they left. Seeing these things brings fear, but I cannot catch the horses. There is no change. I continued walking. Out of fear, I glanced back and saw horses approaching. Overcome with terror, I quickened my pace to reach my destination, but the horses also accelerated. Panic set in. I feared this might be my final day, recalling the man who had spoken to her at the house where I spent the night. I am thinking about the river flowing across the floor between the spots of water. The village is a 10-minute run away. My father was certain, but I lacked knowledge. I began to run, and I noticed that my speed was equal to that of the horses. Running has become my life. It is what I pursue. In reality, this is possible. A horse can run quickly. I was facing death. The scariest part was the horse running toward me. A few minutes later, a light flashed, and I understood. I ran toward the light, shouting loudly. As I approached, I saw a boat. Prisoners were on board. I screamed for help, and someone from the boat climbed out to reach me. They lifted me onto the boat where horses stood nearby, and their eyes shone like fire, and their mouths held expressions of anger. Suddenly, a human-like voice emerged from the horses, ordering me to be lowered to the bank. The man agreed, and we departed. I was on the boat and returned home the following morning. This account is from Narada Events. This is a true story regarding an incident that occurred at a river. I have many more such events to share, and will provide them in writing later. Please feel free to leave your comments or opinions regarding this incident. We will now proceed to the next event. I am writing to inform the audience about a personal life event. The incident occurred in 2002 while I was an Islamic studies student at a university in Kushtia. My department decided to go on an educational tour to Komiya. It was December and winter had arrived, and I planned to travel from Kushtia to my village home in Tupapara, Magura, via Dhaka. I arranged to meet my friends at a hotel near the Dhaka bus stand in Magura around 10 p.m. to board the car. We planned to have dinner at the hotel before departing. My village is located in the Shripur police station area of Magura district, approximately 12 kilometers from the city, with convenient travel arrangements. Regular tempo service runs from Shripur to Magura between 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. The journey takes at most 1 hour. After having dinner at home and saying goodbye to my parents, I left at 8 p.m. Our home is 1 kilometer from Shripur market, a distance I covered on foot. From Shripur, I took a tempo to Magura. I felt very relaxed leaving home. It was a winter night illuminated by a full moon. Surrounded by moonlight and frost, I walked through the familiar village. I did not take a van. I walked toward the village Eidgah. I was there behind which lies the village cemetery. The road was a short distance away. I had no particular thoughts as I walked alone on the street. Had someone been there? I certainly would have seen them from afar. While walking toward the Eidgah and the cemetery, I suddenly noticed something. 2 or 3 horse footprints appeared on the path. Much like how incense smoke can form various shapes when lit, these horse footprints caught my eye. As I looked up, I followed the trail. A horse stands in front of me. I was terrified, my hair standing on end. This also happens when I am overcome with intense anger, which left me feeling parched. I immediately shouted Allahu Akbar 2 or 3 times and jumped up. In my mind, I was desperate to escape the situation. My only defense was to keep shouting Allahu Akbar. Just then, I noticed 2 children walking down the road. They looked toward me, surprised by my screaming. I felt a sense of shame. I stayed to walk again. I thought I had shown you as if nothing had happened. Later, I told the story of the education tour from father to mother. Mother said that place is horrific. People often experience fear there, sensing things that are not truly present. That was my experience. If necessary, read or listen. I am unsure about the washing horoscope twisted horse road. but it seems that whatever resides there can enter our drawing room and bedroom. This may merely be an image created within our minds, yet you can consciously perceive it. The issue arises when we think about it. When things become disconnected, we must consider our place in the universe. How do we navigate our path? We often wonder about our journey from one place to another on Earth. Upon waking, we encounter many experiences. These are the realities of the world. Regarding my doubts about the world I entered, have you read about those who have entered the world of music? The matter is mysterious, and the question holds significant meaning. However, the answer is difficult to find. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you are all doing well and are in good health. Peace be upon you, my friends and audience. How is everyone doing? By the grace of God, I hope you are all well. I am sharing new events regarding Alam and Sabit Alam, who regularly collect and send content for us. Today, however, I am reporting an incident I heard about from a close friend of my friend's father. Without further delay, let us proceed directly to the event. Please forgive any flaws in this account. My friend's father has been speaking about this for several years. A relative of mine lived in Dhaka. She was a woman of modest means whose husband passed away several years ago. Left to support 3 sons and 5 daughters, she faced immense hardship. Despite having little formal education, she possessed a deep passion for reading. She taught herself to read through newspapers and various books, and whenever she could acquire any reading material, she would become completely engrossed in it. He used to work as a tailor during the day to support his family. In the evenings, he taught children the Quran, and he spent his nights reading old books and magazines. When his passion for reading reached an obsessive level, someone advised him to stop buying books from local shops. Instead, they suggested he purchase old books and documents in bulk from scrap dealers. By doing so, he could build a personal library at home, satisfy his hobby, and potentially generate a financial income. Many people visit the library to read. My aunt, who was well-read, often collected books, magazines, and old documents from neighbors and book sales. Using an old wheelbarrow, she would quickly transport dozens of books to establish her own library. She then rented these books to local children, eventually turning the library into a steady source of income. Aunt became obsessed with reading. She abandoned all her chores, dedicating her days and nights solely to books. Her hobby grew to the point that she neglected her children, leaving the girls to manage the household and their own affairs. She spent every day at the library, often searching markets for rare old books. This became a fatal addiction, eventually leading her to stop visiting the library altogether. While at home, I spent the entire day and night reading through a stack of books. Aunt's income was derived from the library. She remained at home, committed to caring for her son, Neil, bearing that responsibility. However, as time passed, the library eventually closed. Since I was a peer of her son, Ahmed, we were close friends, and I visited their home daily. Furthermore, I had a relationship with her daughter. My mother favored her, as the girl was virtuous, simple, and kind. Everyone spoke highly of her. My mother cherished music. She had 3 daughters in a row, all noble and well regarded in the family. She arranged their weddings, though only 2 daughters remain. One of them maintains a relationship with me. My aunt helped with the housework, but at night, she would read to her child. My mother believed she was under subconscious pressure, perhaps seeking refuge in marriage to escape her difficulties. Can he or she understand music? There were only 2 girls, the rest were boys. One was ours, and another was someone else's. Inshallah, they will marry soon and become more relaxed. Regarding the library, I began to cope with the situation by myself. I started by reading old books, and slowly, new books were added. It felt like an upper-class course, as all the books were available. It was not possible for general students to buy them. Far from the children's bookstore, I found a library next door. Another house had been broken into, and my aunt gave that property to the library as well. A large stationery shop opened nearby, and I was surprised to see children from across the city coming there to rent books and purchase school and college supplies. My aunt became busy with her studies, and she hired 2 or 3 employees to manage the library. The income from the house increased, and the old building was replaced by a 3-story structure. All necessary accessories for the house have arrived. My friend was highly educated and preparing to go to America. However, his aunt insisted he marry his 2 sisters first. She was generally a woman of few words, but since his music business became successful, she has stopped speaking altogether. She only speaks when absolutely necessary. Otherwise, she remains quiet all day and reads throughout the night. Her dedication to reading was such that the lamp in her house would burn all night with the door closed, and we understood why. My aunt was lying in bed reading when she suddenly passed away. For many days, Bella remained asleep. When we told Ahmed that he was forbidden from visiting my aunt, our happiness knew no bounds. Wedding preparations were rushed. Coincidentally, a marriage proposal arrived for another girl, which was also a coincidence, as the groom worked in my office. Her name was accepted, and our wedding was completed on the same day in the hall. At the wedding, my aunt generously provided a dowry. Regarding the dowry, the entire house was furnished with all necessary items, from the kitchen to the living room. After the wedding, they moved to America. They have 2 young sons who have started university. My aunt began living her life in the same manner. It has been a year since the wedding. During this time, my aunt became ill. For a long time, she did not seek treatment. She kept her illness hidden, but eventually, the condition reached an advanced stage. He had to go to the doctor. I watched her body colors. They were fading. Could she eat anything? No. They went together. He said, "Father, slow down." I asked why, but he just continued reading from the book. I laughed, thinking that some people are born with an addiction to reading. I then showed the doctor the results. He informed me that my aunt had liver cancer and that it had already spread. Surgery was not an option. When asked how much time she had left, he explained that she would need to follow specific rules for her remaining days. That day, I called Ahmed in America. After my sister's wedding, she went to America. Upon hearing about our mother's illness, she became very worried. My brother and I have always felt that our mother has endured many hardships throughout her life, and we want to do everything we can for her now. Although the doctors here have not provided a clear prognosis, I intend to bring my mother to America for treatment. I have a friend who is a doctor there, and they are well acquainted. I plan to send my mother to her so that I can oversee her treatment. I discussed this advice with my wife and Ahmed, and my aunt and the rest of the family are also very concerned. Everyone agreed that Ahmed was right. Here they suggested he receive treatment in America, but when his aunt heard this, she immediately refused. She began hitting her head and screaming, "I will not go anywhere. I will stay right here. Whatever Allah has written for my life will happen here. I am not going anywhere." The entire family was on one side, and his aunt was on the other. Eventually, after much persistence, she agreed to go to America, but only for 15 days. I checked back. Everyone agreed, so I thought I would handle it. My aunt in America sent word that was it. All the girls were at home, and I was there with my wife. I thought if there was no news about my aunt, everyone would go back to their own homes. We were all waiting for the doctor's report when that night we received news that my aunt had passed away in America. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And we made emergency arrangements to bring her body back to the country. Everyone at home was devastated. My wife was crying so hard she almost fainted. I went to the fridge to get a bottle of water, but when I reached for it, I dropped it. The bottle was so hot it burned my hand. I was confused, thinking someone must have filled it with boiling water. I went to grab another bottle from the fridge, but it was just as hot. I called my brother-in-law, and he clarified that it wasn't hot water at all. She was crying. My sisters asked, "Who put hot water in the fridge?" Everyone denied it. After a while, my brother-in-law wanted to take some ice out. He realized that the ice felt like burning coal in his hand. He told me about it, so I tried to take some ice out myself. It looked like ice, but it felt terribly hot to the touch. It was truly mysterious. A little later, it became a spectacle. Everyone was touching the ice and water bottles in the fridge to see for themselves. I was testing an egg in my hand for an auction, but it slipped and fell to the floor, breaking instantly. My fingers felt as if they were burnt. While I was busy dealing with this mess, my sister-in-law went to the kitchen to get milk for her child. She screamed as she picked up the pot, spilling all the milk. She had burned her hand badly and, in her panic, turned on the water. However, she screamed again and pulled her hand away immediately. Sarah was home alone when a terrifying incident occurred. Boiling water suddenly spilled, and she watched it happen in shock. Terrified, she tried to run, but she felt paralyzed. The calls kept coming, and the boiling water seemed to be moving on its own, as if controlled by a powerful, invisible force. It felt intensely hot. Even though there were many people in the house, no one else seemed to notice. "Rocky, tell me, what do you think is happening?" I used to pray. No, my uncle's brother would only come to the mosque to pray on Eid or Fridays. I never used to pray, and I've never seen my aunt pray either. But today, at a house of mourning, someone was reading the Quran. It was around the time of Maghrib, and many people were preparing for prayer. Someone had laid out a prayer mat in the house. When the adhan sounded, people went to pray. But they felt a sudden, intense heat. Everyone rushed out of the house, and even those who were reading the Quran became terribly restless and got up. Sitting on the floor for a while, the house lights suddenly burst, the house drowned in darkness. Like an incorporeal shadow, Sarah began to move through the house. This is not a made-up story. but a series of real events that everyone present, witnessed, and felt. Even today, they still talk about that day. When the incident happened, people rushed away in horror. When they looked back, the house had become empty. There was an elder among us who used to worship there. He used to. He also heard the news of Aunt Death. Okay, the time arrived when people panicked and ran home. Seeing this, he asked why. I told him all the details. He entered the house, looked this way and that, shook his head, and told me to be quiet and stay inside. By evening, the light was dim. The night was dark, and a car was approaching. Around 4 o'clock, he stood outside my home and asked me to stay. He held the door as I ran to buy a candle and matches. Upon my return, I saw an elder reading something. The house was empty, and the neighbors, who had previously run away, were now standing outside. I called for the elder, whom we all refer to as Nana, and he went straight inside the house. He kept the candles in the house. Stem was surprised. The lamp burst out earlier, but when he tried to light the candles, they kept extinguishing. Grandfather Anna was surprised by the matter, yet the candles remained burning. However, they burned as if a strong wind were blowing across them, despite the heat. Everyone had forgotten Aunt Death's hobby by then. I was thinking of this new disaster. Now that fear seems to be in my own house. The 2 upper locks were empty. Grandmother stayed home for a while. She was reading something alone. My aunt and I were there with her. After a while, she gestured for us to come outside. The 3 of us went out behind her. Grandmother locked the door and said, "Father, I am closing the house for now. I will return tomorrow with music. Before I come, I must see some people. I understand from my elders that this house has become unclean and must be sanctified. Be careful." Upon my arrival home, I found my 2 brothers already there. Following the news of my aunt's passing, the house has become a place of mysterious talk. Everyone seems to know about the events involving the baby and the old man. Since the news of her death spread, more people have gathered at our home to hear about these strange and mysterious occurrences than ever before. The next morning, I went to my aunt's house where my 2 cousins, Baran and Barada, lived. Upon arriving, I learned that Barada had left the previous night to visit an elderly relative but had not yet returned. A couple of hours later, Nana Ellen informed me that she had received instructions to perform a ritual. She was to write a verse in saffron ink on white paper, wash the paper in a bucket of water, and sprinkle that water on the walls and floors of the house. She then gave me the paper, which contained the written verse. I wrote verses on saffron-stained paper. I brought a bucket of water from the market and washed the papers in it. I then left with the water toward home. What is there to say? Now that I am entering the house, I am fearful. People say that a jinn, a client, or an evil spirit has cast a spell. Until now, I had only read or heard such stories in books. In reality, this is the first time I have faced something like this. I entered the house in the name of Allah. The house is in disarray. It feels as if everything has been turned upside down. The curtains are torn, as though someone with immense force dragged them down and left. The dishwasher is broken, the bedding is inverted. Everything feels wrong, like a fire, like heat. The calls persist, and boiling water is overflowing. A foul smell emanates from the food, as if it has been sitting for years. The house feels strange and ghostly. Out of fear, I entered. Nana poured 2 mugs of water into the corner of the wall. As I watched, it felt as if I were pouring water onto a fire to extinguish it. The fire sounded like 16. The house was washed away. Nana gave us 3 amulets to read. By reading them aloud, we gained some courage. Otherwise, the 3 of us could not have stood there. No, we could not have entered the house without Nana or the amulets. Because I trusted Grandfather, I proceeded. I poured a full mug of water in the same place, invoking the name of Allah. This time there was a sound of smoke, and it felt as if a crack had formed between 2 walls. Something emerged from within and ran to the corner where it disappeared. Simultaneously, all the glass windows in the house shattered. When Grandfather poured water in the other corner, it felt as though an earthquake had begun. The sound of breaking glass and rolling utensils echoed throughout the house. It was as if someone were loudly wandering through the rooms, and we could clearly hear their footsteps. Although it was mid-afternoon and the house was filled with light, we were all overcome by a sense of fear and panic that is difficult to explain. Later, when I went to fill a 3rd mug with water, the bucket had disappeared. Nana searched everywhere, but we could not find it. Nana then ran outside. The 3 of us ran back. I went from one house to another, then to a 3rd. Once everything was in place, I turned around. Nana was in the garden with a bucket, beginning to read something. Suddenly our eyes fell upon a flower bucket. One part of the bucket was in the garden, covered in clay, as if it had been there for a long time. We thought there might be mud inside, but when Nana pulled the handle, the bucket was absolutely clean. Water and clay would not come out. We tried to wash the walls with water, but the water eventually ran out and it was of no use. That day we closed the house and left. Later we returned to follow the elderly woman's instructions. These instructions require at least 20 buckets of water to be poured over 2 days. For 2 days, my aunt, 2 boys, and Nana worked together to write verses with saffron ink, which were then dissolved in the water. I obtained permission from our neighbors to perform this task. Fearing the process, the neighbors went to stay with their relatives. The elderly woman's instructions were that once all the house walls became cold, the aunt would open the house. Before that, no one could enter. The aunt had kept the house, where she always lived engrossed in reading, under lock and key. Aunt went with the lock herself. We continued to work in that unbearable environment for 2 days. Slowly, smoke began to rise from the walls, which had become enclosed, and the amount of vandalism decreased. After pouring a bucket at number 19, Aunt arranged to open the house lock. At number 20, she entered the house after using a bucket to clear the way. This was my first time seeing the house. Although Aunt had renovated the entire place, it remained in its original state, still appearing as broken as it was before. The house's interior was dark and breathless, creating an unsettling environment. An old, stained period piece stood at the front. Nearby, a shelf held several ancient, dilapidated books containing mysterious knowledge. Next to the shelf was my aunt's bed. As I approached the wall, an old skull and several bones, undoubtedly human, emerged. My grandmother hurried to the 4 corners of the house and sprinkled water on the walls. As the water touched them, The house shook as if caught in an earthquake. Vandalism struck our home 9 times in a row, and each time things were set on fire. Somehow we managed to escape. I stood outside watching the house burn, shocked to see all our belongings reduced to ashes. However, my aunt's old possessions remained intact. Even the library, which she had curated herself through years of hard work, was untouched. After the fire was extinguished, Nana explained, "Your aunt's old books were not ordinary. They contained forbidden knowledge, what some might call black magic or satanic lore. Regarding the music, only that knowledge should be read. It did not happen. Set an example to start. In this matter, he or she contacted a devilish companion. Whether that person was adept in science is unknown. Accepting discipleship from her was a significant satanic act. Because of this, her health deteriorated daily. The act ended after a few months, and the rest followed. A few months later, an expert in black magic arrived, believing he would acquire all wealth, resources, and a luxurious life through such practices. He arranged for black magic, jinns, and evil spirits to inhabit the house. Every client of this era has a jinn, and because of this, no one ever recited prayers or the Quran in that home. After the aunt's death, the Quran reading began to grant her forgiveness, as the restless spirits had become agitated. A second reason was that the aunt had kept items belonging to others. When the music stopped, those spirits were finally released. They then left the aunt's house, and the entire home became peaceful. We were all fearful. That night, a fire broke out at my aunt's home. On the same day, a fire also destroyed my wife's dowry. I initially thought it was an accident, but later learned that a fire had also broken out at my brother Makbul's home that same night. We are both safe, and I intend to discuss this matter further. People no longer come to our home for fear that the house is abandoned. Even today, music plays in the background, yet no one is there. Why? No one comes to repair the house or stay. In reality, these upside-down acts or tantra mantra rituals are a waste of time and only bring misfortune to the family. May Allah protect us all. Amen.